Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek Interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I am the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Trina Martin. She's a Navy veteran and an IT consultant. She's also the host of the Trina Talk podcast and author of the book, From a Mess to Amazing, 7 Steps to Creating the Life You Deserve. I'm interested to learn more about her time in the military, her consultancy work, and her book and her podcast. Welcome to Teach the Geek Interviews, Trina.
Thank you, Neil, for having me.
So, from the bit of research that I did on you, I saw that you got a degree in computer science. So, where did that interest come from?
When I was young, that had always been an interest of mine. I went to high school in the early 80s. So computer science was just really becoming a thing. And I went to a technical high school in Chicago and I loved it. I loved learning how to program and finding that I could write code to make a computer do what I wanted was something that just interested me. So I ended up going to college and getting my degree in computer science and hence having over 20 years in the IT industry as a computer programmer.
Okay, but I also saw you got an MBA as well. What was the motivation to get that degree?
You know, that's a story. So I got my degree in computer science. It had been 10, 12 years, whatever. And I was in the Navy and I wanted to become an officer and get my commission. And talking to the Navy recruiter, he was pretty blunt to tell me that, oh, you're not competitive. You know, we're bringing in doctors and lawyers, and the only thing that'll make you competitive is having an advanced degree. So I thought about it and I said, well, you know, thinking to myself, I said, well, I really don't want to go back to school, but if I go back to school, I want it to be something that is going to benefit me and help me in my career outside the Navy. So I ended up going to a private business school, getting an MBA in international business because I love to travel and I knew I always wanted to have my own business. So that was my strategy. And as well as it helped me get my commission in the Navy.
Wow, the guy told you that having a degree in computer science wasn't enough. What the hell is this problem?
Exactly. Well, this guy, he was a piece of work.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I did mention that you are a veteran, and you also mentioned that you were a veteran of the Navy. Was joining the military always something you had planned on doing?
Actually, no. So my story is I am the youngest of 4 children. I grew up in Chicago. First person in my family to go to college, and it was self-financed. So after completing my freshman year in college, I realized that I needed a way to pay for college if I was going to continue because I didn't have help or support from home. I ended up joining the Army, enlisting in the Army and doing 3 years there. And it was during the Desert Storm era. And I joined that. I ended up having a profession of NBC, which was nuclear biological chemicals. And if you remember back in 1990 when Desert Storm was going on, that's what the war was about. We were wondering if Saddam had biological warfare, what was going to happen. So I was one of the people who got called to go. And thank God, luckily before I got on the plane, they said, okay, we don't need you. So from there, I said, okay, this is not the career I thought it was going to be. I ended up transferring over to the Navy and I retired as of 1 November this year after completing 30 years of service.
Wow, 30 years in the Navy. Imagine that. And it wasn't even a plan, but you ended up staying for 30 years. What kept you in?
You know, just the people, the camaraderie. I wanted to make a difference. And it's funny because, I joined to pay for college and I only thought, okay, I'm going to do this, pay for college 4 years, get the GI Bill, things like that. But after getting in, traveling the world, that was something I had never done, meeting people that I wouldn't have normally met in just my day-to-day life and having them as lifelong friends. And then I realized as I climbed the ranks, being a female and being a female of color, there weren't many of us in the Navy. So I had a lot of people come to me privately, especially other females saying, hey, you're inspiration to me. You know, I'm so glad that you're here. So that made me say, you know what, I'm going to continue on because I wanted to have impact and show that women like me do exist and that you can climb that ladder.
So you did 3 years in the Army. It wasn't exactly what you thought it would be. You decided to go to the Navy instead, and you spent 30 years there. What type of work did you do when you were in the Navy?
I was an intelligence officer.
Okay. What does that mean?
A lot of stuff that I can't talk about.
Oh, okay. Okay. I apologize for that. I did not know that. Okay. All right. That's cool. So then you finish up in the Navy, and then you have to figure out what you're going to do next. What was next for you?
Well, next is my business. I have a technology consulting business where my thing is I help small and medium-sized businesses get secure communication technology solutions for their business. Because you and I both know that this new normal that we're living in and how you and I are communicating right now, this is how things are going to be. And so many businesses weren't ready for this. And they didn't know that, okay, I need to do this to sustain my business. But not only knowing how to communicate with your distant clients, customers, and employees, you have to do it securely. There have been a lot of breaches out there, people, getting hacked, data getting stolen. And if that happens to you, that may ruin your business. It will definitely take you down, but sometimes it will cause you to just totally lose. So I wanted to take my technical expertise and help the small and medium-sized businesses do that, get their secure communications on point so that they could operate.
So typically, these small and medium-sized businesses, what do they actually bring you in to do?
Well, they're bringing me in. So I'm working with like the construction companies, the attorney's office, accountants, people who don't necessarily have a IT team and a large budget to hire some of the big tech names to come in. So if they hire me, they're saying, okay, I have a team of 10, but we are all on different platforms. When I communicate with my employee who's now at home working remotely, I want to have a standard platform that we communicate on. I don't want to have to text this person who's on an iPhone or Android, or we need to collaborate together as a team. And how do we do that when we're all in different places?
Okay, I got you. And then when it comes to the work that you do, I get the sense that sometimes people are resistant to the change. So you might be working with a group of 10 people, but they might be thinking, at least some of them might be thinking, we kind of like the way we like things the way that they currently are. Why should we change? Do you ever come across that? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Absolutely. You always have someone who's resistant to change. And you just have to let them know that, first of all, the world is changing. We're in a change now that none of us ever thought that we would be in. So you have to evolve. And like I said earlier, either you evolve and you're flexible or your business suffers. And it's just a matter to you is, what are you willing to pay? Are you willing to pay that price for your business not thriving in a new way of doing business?
When it came to leaving the military, and was it always your idea to start your own business, or was it kind of something that you fell into?
No, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I've had little businesses here and there throughout the years. I never wanted to be, and it's funny saying this after 30 years in the military, but I never wanted to be the person who just worked for someone else my whole life. So when I got out of the military and I thought, you know what, this is my time to do what I really want to do, which is have my own business, create a legacy for my children. I have 2 teenagers now, and I want them to see that entrepreneurial spirit, because you and I both know going to college, getting a degree is great, but that really doesn't create wealth for you. And it's not something that you can really pass down. So that's really what I'm looking for in the second half of my life, is creating something that, one, I can be an impact to others with my business and with my speaking, but also something that my children can have and I can pass down to them.
I have a friend here. So I'm in the San Diego area, and I have a friend here, and he has a podcast called Snack Walls, and he talks to people about about a bunch of things. But one of the things that he talks about is computer science and the need to have a computer science degree to work in the tech industry. And he notes that a number of the bigger companies have gotten rid of that requirement. As someone who has that type of degree, what do you think of the idea of getting rid of the computer science requirement for these tech roles?
It's like I said, I got my degree, over 30 years ago, but I think a computer science degree is something that is so broad and so needed, because you can do anything. You can get a computer science degree, you can go into coding, you can be designing. It's so many various professions that encompass that. And I think right now, especially with everyone trying to push the STEM um, bubble, that I think is needed. But then again, we're in a day and age now where that's not the only means. So you have various certificates that you can get in various programs. So you don't necessarily need to have the computer science degree, but I don't think you should discount people who do.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess one of his issues is keeping or making it a requirement may very well keep people that don't have it from taking on those type of roles. And so he's really big on just expanding the I guess the pool of people that you can draw from, you know, including the ones that don't necessarily have those degrees. They can still possibly, you know, with any kind of training or going to a boot camp, something like that, getting those certifications, like you noted, can still do those roles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also noted that you have a podcast as well, Trina Talk. What's the podcast about, and what do you hope people get from it?
You know, Trina Talk is all about inspiration, whether it's for your personal life or your professional life. And I started this podcast 2 years ago because I was at a point in my life that I was trying to decide, what do I go to? And I was going through some hard times. And I love podcasts, and I've been listening to them, I think, ever since they really became a thing. But there really wasn't one podcast that I could go to that I could get business, leadership, inspiration all in one. You know, you have several different, like, oh, I would listen to this one, this one, this one. So that was my goal with Trina Talk. So I bring on leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs. I've had people from all around the world. I had someone in Israel come on to my show and just talk about their successes and failures, because I think that's something that we don't get. I think we get a lot of people saying, oh, here I am on the mountaintop. I've succeeded. I'm great. I'm this and I'm that. But they don't tell you the things that happened to them where they failed, or what it took in their journey for them to get where they are. So that's kind of what I like to delve in when I talk to these people. And some of these people are some really hard charging, high powerful people. But then I ask them, okay, what have you been through to get to this place? Because some people will look at you and say, oh, that's what I want to do. This is going to be great. I can do it. It's easy. But everything costs. Everything has a price to it. And that's what I wanted people to see. And in turn, I wanted people to be encouraged by that. I wanted them to know that it's not impossible, whatever it is they want to achieve, whether they want to be better as a person themselves, or if they want to go into leadership, it's possible, but there's things you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I get the sense that a lot of times people are real keen to talk about their successes, but maybe not so much to talk about those failures. Has it been difficult for you to get people to open up about those failures? And if so, how do you go about getting them to open up about them?
You know, no, it hasn't. Honestly, I've actually had some really great guests. And when I ask them about their failures, I haven't had any resistance. Most people share them, because you have to know that you do go through failures. You didn't get to where you are now without having some, whether they're big, small, whether there's something that took you down and out or not. And a lot of people have been very transparent with me. Some people have shared that, hey, you know what? I lost everything. I lost everything financially, or I lost my marriage, or I, had to start over from ground zero. So those are the stories that really impact. And that's what I want to do. I want to impact. I didn't want it to be something superficial. I wanted it to be something that everyone could relate to.
Yeah, for sure. And I also mentioned that you wrote a book. What was the motivation for the book, and what do you hope people get out of it?
Again, inspiration. That's something that's really true and dear to my heart, is just inspiring others. I think I was put here for a reason, and my reason is to impact others. So I wrote this book, and again, this was something that I had not planned to do. But as I speak and my speaking platform got bigger, I was like, okay, well, I need to write a book. As I got into writing in the process, I ended up becoming very vulnerable in this book and sharing things in this book that I had not planned on sharing. But the book is half memoir and half inspirational self-help, however you want to call it. And basically what I do is I talk about my journeys in life and some of the things that I have encountered with, is how I overcame them, and the way that you can overcome those type of situations yourself. Because again, a lot of times we see people's successes, but we don't see the journey. And that I really wanted to go to. And I talk about my personal life, some parts of my personal life, and some places where I've really felt that I had failed and how I didn't do well. And then I talk about things that happened in my professional life. Just a whole bunch of different things. And I really hope that the readers are inspired by it. When I wrote the book, I didn't put the workbook in it, but I do have a free workbook that people can download once they purchase the book. So I've gotten really great reviews on it. People really love it and say it's very inspirational.
Nice. Well, yeah, you certainly, I'm sure you put parts of your personal life in there, but not all of it. Not the part about being an intelligence officer. That's classified.
Well, I put that I was an officer, but yeah, I didn't go into the details of what I've done.
Yeah, no question. So, when did you realize that public speaking was something that would benefit you?
Just all through my life, it's kind of, and it's funny because I was a very shy, introverted little girl. I grew up with a mother who verbally abused me. She told me that I was awful, I was ugly, all of these things to really tear me down. So all my life I had low self-esteem and didn't know my worth. But I found that throughout my years, I was put in situations. So my 8th grade graduation, I was selected to give a speech to introduce the principal and do that. And after I did that, I was like, oh, I like this. This is something that I really like, because at first I was nervous, but then I got there and I kind of felt comfortable. It felt like, okay, this is what I was meant to do. And throughout my life, I've been put in positions like that. And of course, as being a military officer, I always have to speak, whether it's speaking to, my peers, the people who I'm leading, or even speaking to admirals and generals. That's something that I really had to learn how to perfect and do. So that introverted little girl that I once was ended up coming out through my speaking when I realized that, okay, I can really have an impact and I feel good. It's like I feel at home when I speak. And several years ago, I went to a middle school here in Houston where I live. And the principal said, oh, well, can you talk to these girls about self-esteem and really being the best selves, their best selves? And I said, sure. And the girls, they said, well, these girls are kind of our problem girls. And they were primarily Latina girls. And I said, okay. And I went in and I started my talk. And of course, they're sitting there, looking at their nails, rolling their eyes. But after a while, they started warming up and they started engaging with me. And, they were like, wow. And I told them about being in the military. And they were like, oh, I can do that. I never knew that I could do that. These are this is my goal in life. I want to be this. I didn't know I could do these things. And that gave me so much joy because I was speaking to girls that probably no one had ever, poured into them to tell them that they're bigger than their circumstances. And they were just following the cycle, whatever that cycle was for their life. They were just in that cycle, not knowing that they could be the one to step out of that cycle and make history in their family.
Yeah, no question. I'm glad that they had someone like you to learn from and to listen to. I'm guessing that maybe, well, I could be speaking out of turn, but speaking about self-esteem and knowing that that you can rise above your circumstances is a topic that you enjoy speaking on. Are there other topics that you enjoy speaking about?
Rising of, being resilient, that's one of my main topics. I talk about leadership, of course, being a leader in the military. That's another one. And just the empowerment. And of course, I talk about tech as well, but leadership and being resilient are my core talks that I love to give.
Have you always been good at public speaking? And if not, what'd you do to get better at it?
I've learned. Again, I learned along the way from being that 8th grade little girl who gave that speech to along the years, because I took a speech class in college where we had to do public speaking. But then I got into the military and had to learn how to speak on a different platform and in a different level, in a different way. So I did that. And then here, for the past 2 years, I've gotten a personal speaking coach, which you may know of, Lisa Nichols, and she's my speaking coach. So I've done things to get better along the way because there's different speakers and there's different ways to speak. So the way that I speak on stage, when I'm going on stage to speak about leadership or resilience and empowering, is different than how I will speak when I'm in the military giving a briefing or talking to an admiral general. And it's like anything else. It's a craft. You have to hone your craft. And if you got to continue to work on it and you got to continue to practice, you just can't go out there and wing it. People don't want to see that. You have to be your best.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who makes fun of me about the fact that I practice my presentations to the point where I know essentially how long they take, because I'm really interested or really cognizant of people's time. And
yes,
you're given 20 minutes, you don't want to take 30.
Exactly.
But you know, he makes fun of me about it all the time.
Oh no, you're doing the right thing, because I do the same thing. Is when I'm told, okay, this is how much time you have to speak on stage, I want to make sure I get it. Because again, you have to be respectful of people's time, and you don't want to just take liberty with that, because then you may not get invited back, because you know they have a schedule that they need to follow, and they've been gracious enough to open up their time for you.
Yeah, I fully believe if you go overtime, it's disrespectful to the audience, and you're right. It throws off the agenda, and now everything's going later, and now lunch is starting later, and I'm hungry, and I can't go to lunch.
I mean, if you think about it, it's just like going to a doctor's office. Okay, we've all been to the doctor's office. Our appointment is at whatever time, and we go there, and you're sitting in the waiting room for 30 minutes, an hour, and they go, oh well, the doctor's running late, because maybe it was one patient somewhere who took up more time than what they thought and just pushed the whole schedule back. And then you're thinking, okay, well, I had something else to do today, and now I've been sitting here for an hour. So again, you want to be respectful.
Yeah, when it comes to them doctor's office, don't make any plans. Do you have a process when it comes to putting your presentations together? And if so, what is it?
You know, I do. I first of all, I think about my audience. That's the main thing. I'm thinking about, who am I speaking to? And I want to have impact in what I'm saying. So I really sit down and I try to think about how I can deliver what I'm going to say that's going to be very impactful and present value, because I don't want to go to a group of, since we said doctors, a group of doctors, and I'm talking to them about an accounting principle. So you really want to know your audience. And like we already stated, I do my time thing. So when I'm sitting down and I'm writing my points and thinking about the points and the stories I'm going to tell, I make sure that I can put what I need to put in that time. If it's longer, I make sure I cut it down. If it's something that I need to add more to, that's what I do. But it's really some work. And as you know, it's work. You have to really sit down and think about how you're going to do it and how you're going to deliver it. And I even practice that. I practice how I'm going to deliver it, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say a word, things like that. All have meaning and impact on your message that you deliver.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Trina, when you say that. And I'm sure that the audiences that you speak to appreciate the fact that you put so much time into preparing your presentations. It shows that you actually care about the outcome, and you care about what you're saying, and you care about what they get out of it. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
So do you ever get nervous before giving presentations? And if so, how do you deal with your nerves?
I do get nervous. It's always that initial, before you're getting ready to step on stage, you're nervous because you're going, okay, I've practiced. Hopefully I don't forget what I practiced. So you think about that, but usually before I go on stage, you know, I say a quick prayer. I try to calm myself, breathe in and out, and I do it, you know, because my thing is, if you know what you're talking about, whether you hit it word for word or not is not really important. You can deliver your message, and no one in the audience knows what your speech is. So, you know, in your mind, you may be going, oh man, I missed that point. But if you know what you're talking about, and if you're a good enough speaker, you don't have to worry about that point, because you know what you're saying enough to tie it in and still deliver that message.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not just like you said. It's not as if you miss something, it's not as if the audience knows you missed it anyway. It's only you know.
Right.
Unless you tell them. Why the hell would you do that?
Right.
Keep it to yourself. Well, you've offered quite a number of great tips to get better at public speaking, Trina. I'm really big on breathing. It really helps to kind of calm you down. So and then also the practicing part I think is really cool too. And then just like myself, you also time your speeches to make sure that you're within time. Are there any other tips that you'd like to offer in becoming more effective at public speaking?
For speaking, I would just say, put yourself into it. You don't want to just stand there and go, ma, 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 ma. You want to really put some feeling and emotion into it, because that's what people relate to. We've all been to places, or we've went to speeches, or been in a class where there's the monotone person that sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher, or you want to just fall out and say, okay, run me over with a bus now. So you don't want to be that person. You want to actually get people engaged. So just try to be engaging.
Yeah, engaging is certainly helpful. You certainly don't want to look out into the audience and see people falling asleep or being on their phones.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no question. It's like, I wasted my time, I wasted your time, everyone's time is wasted.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you'd like to mention on things that you're working on?
So the book, like I said, the book is a great Christmas gift for people. It's very encouraging, especially in this day and age where we have gone through so much this year. I think it is something that will really inspire people. So if you buy the book, if you go to my website, fromamesstoamazing.com, you can download the workbook for free. That's the companion to the book. So please do that. Also, what I'm doing now is my way of mentoring and giving back is I have a girls of color who want to go into tech class, that for girls who are 13 years old or older, who are Black, Latina, or Native American, and they want to pursue tech. I'm doing a class to help them navigate the technical field, to teach them what career fields, the benefits, things like that, answer questions, just to be a mentor, because women of color are underrepresented in tech, and I want to do something to change that.
Wonderful. How can people get in touch with you, Trina?
My website is trinalmartin.com. But if you want to talk to me, you can also hit me up on DM on LinkedIn. That's the main platform that I'm on. So send me a direct message and I will respond that way.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek Interviews. My name is Neil Thompson, founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. Consider checking out Teach the Geek to Speak. It's an online public speaking course. You can learn more about it at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Trina.
Thank you.